Hey everybody, it's Mattie here with Altcoin Buzz, and I hope you're having a good one. I wanted to take a special look at a report that, as promised, we were going to come back to, and this was something that was originally published a little while ago on November 4th by Luke, but he summed up the OneAlpha report, and in a nutshell, it's suggesting that Bitcoin is gaining strength. So we'll take a look at just the main bullet points here, and then we're going to launch straight into the report itself, which you can download in PDF format. All of the links are available for you below in the description if you want to check this out at your own leisure. But in a nutshell, a report published by OneAlpha last month states that Bitcoin is gaining strength after the massive sell-off that we've unfortunately been experiencing in 2018. According to the report, the December 2017 and January 2018 boom and bust had a cleansing effect on the ecosystem. Furthermore, the stability of the last weeks is a sign of a more mature market that moved past the hype phase. You guys can, of course, read more about Luke's take on the report. He provides a general summary here, including some important quotes taken out of the report itself. But why don't we launch straight into the PDF and really dive into this? So here's the report itself in PDF format, which you can download. You can view it yourself. First Israeli blockchain report put out by OneAlpha. So we're going to be taking a look at this. Obviously, it's a bit of a long, not that it's very long, it's only 41 pages actually, but it's a little bit dense. So I'm going to take you through what I deem to be some of the highlights here. Just very briefly, First Digital Assets Group was created to provide regulated financial services for the growing blockchain economy. And then a little bit about OneAlpha. They're a crypto data intelligence research and analysis company that is now part of First Data Assets Group. We're not going to go through all of the individual sections, but I do invite you, as I always say, grab a cup of coffee, or if it's later in the day, hey, grab a scotch, grab your favorite drink, and just kind of sift through the introduction. Take your time with this sort of stuff. It is a good read. It's a little bit lengthy for the purposes of our video. Nonetheless, it's all here. Take a look at some of the industry voices, what's being said. This is all the exposition in the early part of the report. Again, we're not going to dive into all of this. I think it would be a poor use of our time here today, but I encourage you to check this out. You can read about these statements by the CEO of Blockchain IL and the general manager of iCapital.io. So in looking at the executive summary, would you believe that there are 4,300 companies in the cryptocurrency space? And that's despite the fact that we're about 75% down. So at about 220 billion in terms of total cryptocurrency market evaluation. That is down about 75% from the all-time high in the mid 800 billion range that we experienced in January of 2018. But nonetheless, companies seem to be undeterred because there are 4,300 in the space, if you can believe it. Alpha One points out that despite the retracement, Bitcoin, and this is not really anything too surprising for those that have been following, but Bitcoin is demonstrating a lot of market dominance right now. It dominates over half of the market. Beyond that, really, Ethereum is next up, capturing about 10% of the total market cap, and then it really becomes split quite narrowly in terms of share prices. You can read a little bit more here about some of the statistics behind the ICOs, including, according to Alpha One's data, the fact that about 20% of the projects that publish a white paper fall under the definition of outright scams. And in quarter one of 2018, ICOs raised over $6 billion from investors, compared to around $3 billion in early stage venture capital investments. A couple of important technological trends to point out. One of them is native crypto, which are developments that were not possible before the emergence of the ecosystem. This stream includes cryptocurrencies, utility tokens, smart contract platforms, and non-fungible tokens. Another trend is tokenization, and that's the use of ecosystem tools to improve currently existing services. Tokenization incorporates asset-backed tokens such as security tokens and natural assets, crypto fiats, and stable coins. Part 2 of the executive summary continues here. Do be sure to check it out. I should mention that this is an Israeli-focused report, so that does seem to be the angle in many ways, but hey, why not learn about the projects and the perspectives of Israeli citizens? Israel presents itself as one of the most important hubs of the global ecosystem. Its innovative, high-tech community plays an important role in the development of the future of cryptocurrencies and blockchain innovation. Moving on here and taking a look at the global blockchain market overview. This is a bit of a recap of some of the tragedies that we've experienced in 2018. Yes, the beginning of 2018 was very optimistic in many ways. We reached a lot of all-time highs, but we know what's happened since then, since coming from a 800 plus billion a total market cap in cryptocurrencies to where we are now at, let's call it roughly 200 billion. You could take a look at the information there. But despite the retracement, and this is a very important finding of this study, it's interesting because despite huge losses, ICOs raised much higher sums of money in 2018 than in 2017. In fact, almost twice as much at the time of this report's writing. And as Alpha One writes, we are expecting a phase of sobriety and maturation, a decline in retail investment, and a more careful, responsible approach from institutional investors on one hand and regulators around the world on the other. And a long bear market might be the ideal climate to let the dust settle and examine both internally and externally the true possibilities that lay within the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem. And breaking it down by the numbers, you can see that about $7 billion was raised in ICO funding in 2017 versus about $20 billion in 2018. Numbers of ICOs also increased from 2017, in which there were 552 to 790 ICOs in 2018, and the year's not even done yet. So following the spectacular ICO fad of mid to late 2017, 2018 is proving itself to show the signs of a much more mature market, both regarding the projects conducting ICOs and increasing participation in them. All fragments of the ecosystem showed encouraging signs regarding the future of the community as a whole. If you're looking for a breakdown of some of the more prominent ICOs, here they are. Some of these are pretty much household names, including EOS and Telegram. There are some others that you may or may not have heard about, but they're still major projects with potentially very promising futures. So do be sure to check that out. If you're interested in this section where they look at equity versus token investing, that's a good read for you all. And this is a very interesting page, at least in my opinion, is looking at where all the funding of the cryptocurrency market has hailed from an international perspective. So 2018 saw a steady increase in new crypto funds entering the market and is on target to break the record set in 2017 for most funds established in a year. This year saw the most funds opened in the United States, although the regulatory environment there is not ideal for investors. So far in 2018, the total amount of capital raised to establish US-based funds more than doubled that of the previous year. And you have some good breakdowns here looking at some of the top exchanges in the world. Topping the list, of course, is Binance, that was only founded last year, and it somehow has managed to get to number one. That's due in no small part to the success of their BNB token. Binance is headquartered in Malta, and they have over 350 tradable currencies that are available. Going down the list, we have OKX. They actually have more currencies, 450 plus. You also have BitThumb, BitMEX, Huobi, and Bitfinex. You can read all about those. And a few honorable mentions, not to be neglected, are Gemini, Poloniex, Kraken, Bittrex, GDAX, which is Coinbase, and Upbit. Looking at a more broad macro tech perspective, while we are still at the very beginning of the crypto asset revolution, writes Alpha One, there have been remarkable developments in this constantly evolving field. In this chapter, we'll mention a few of those recent trends in the ecosystem. So when we think of blockchain technology, let's face it, as far as altcoin buzz is concerned, and many of you out there in the altcoin buzz army, we do tend to think about cryptocurrencies. So they do remain kind of the number one most appealing application of blockchain technology. However, currencies are just one application, as we all know. And if you want to take a look at some of these other applications, cryptocurrencies are mentioned. You can read more about that if if you want to learn more about cryptocurrencies, that's fine. But there's also smart contract platforms, which have been developing steadily over the course of 2018. I think it's obviously a new technology, and it's the kind of thing that is being perfected and sharpened more and more. You can also read about utility tokens and this new category that we've discussed a couple of times now, non-fungible tokens and collectibles. So non-fungible tokens and novel crypto tokens are novel crypto tokens in that they are not interchangeable. Unlike currency, where a coin's or a note's worth is not based on their serial number, but on the stated value of the currency, the value of a NFT or a non-fungible token is based on its uniqueness. So you guys can read more about this new emerging class if you're interested. It's all available for you. A lot of good information there. So again, this is not the longest report in the world at 41 pages, but it is dense. We're going to have to skip over some of it. If you want to read more about tokenization, a lot of information is available for you here. You can read about security tokens and equity-backed tokens. You can also read about natural asset-backed tokens. And moving on right ahead, crypto fiat and stable coins. You can read about that, as well as types of stable coins, asset-backed, crypto collateral, and central bank mechanism stable coins. Here's a section that I think is certainly worth your read. The issue of scaling has always been one that has been a contentious one actually in the cryptocurrency space. There are different opinions. Obviously, there are different solutions that have been proposed. So as OneAlpha writes, while some projects concentrate on revolutionizing the ecosystem, various teams are working hard to improve the existing one. As the ecosystem grows exponentially, such projects focus on evolution and tweaking, refining, and polishing existing products. So there are several major examples of such projects. Of course, you have layer 2 protocols. Lightning Network comes into play here. You can read about that. Sharding is something that so many people are working on. You can read about Schnorr, which I didn't know about at all. It aims to improve Bitcoin infrastructure. It is a digital signature alternative to the current elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, the ECDSA. You can also read about confidential transactions as well as Mimblewimble, which is a Bitcoin sidechain that increases the level of Bitcoin transaction encryption. And now we have the topic of enterprise blockchain. So right now, a great number of global companies are hedging. On one hand, many claim to establish committees and teams dedicated to blockchain and even crypto. But on the other hand, every week there are stories regarding yet another company saying something along the lines of, quote, the technology is promising indeed. However, so you can take a look at some of these initiatives that these major multinational companies are heading up. Some very, very big names on this list here. You can read about what Bank of America is doing, IBM, MasterCard, Microsoft, PayPal, Google, Walmart, Amazon, Cisco, Baidu, and Tencent. Of course, that's just a sampling. There are many, many more that are patenting at a furious pace, and they certainly see the value of the blockchain as being part of their corporate future. If you're more interested in the institutionalization of crypto and everything that is happening with Wall Street, that's happening with Fidelity and custody offerings, especially with Bakkt, of course, the parent company of the New York Stock Exchange, Intercontinental Exchange is offering Bakkt, which is going to be going live soon, guys, just as a reminder here. And I still firmly believe that that is a really big deal and something that's being built up behind the scenes that's going to have a major impact. If you're not already across some of this information or you want a recap of what's been happening in 2018, read about it here on page 25, exchange traded funds, stablecoins, digital assets receipts. You can read all about this information. They do a great job of summing it up. If you want to have a fair and balanced view of everything that's been happening this year, then there are some negatives to consider as well. And OneAlpha does a good job here of talking about the dark side of crypto, wash trading, fake volumes. Of course, there have been some pretty high profile hacks on the exchanges. Unfortunately, I don't like to talk about it, but I'm not going to deny it either. We have to address these issues if the space is going to grow and it's going to mature properly. Of course, there have been many ICO scams, no doubt about it. Twitter is still infested with giveaway bots. Unfortunately, you can also read about Bitmain. So again, take this for what it is. There is a dark side to be discussed. If you want to read about it, there's great information here. And of course, as blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies continue making their way into the mainstream, governments around the world are starting to formulate their plans to handle the new asset class, the novel technology, and the ecosystem as a whole. In this chapter, we'll focus on breaking down crypto regulation in some of the leading countries in terms of their efforts to regulate the space. And here you can take a look at all the activities, all the operations that are ongoing in the US, in the European Union, in the UK, in Switzerland, in Gibraltar, in Germany. I like this little icon here. Hopefully that's not too offensive for the Germans out there. In Malta, of course, in Liechtenstein, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, South Korea, Japan, and the Russian Federation. And as I mentioned, because this is an Israeli publication, let's take a look at specifically the angle of the perspective that's being offered here. In this rapidly changing world of cryptocurrencies and blockchain solutions, Israel places itself as one of the major actors in the development of the blockchain ecosystem. A number of companies with hard acquired skills and specialties from other spheres find themselves as niche leaders in the ecosystem. Of course, Israel is already a leader in cybersecurity in many fields of technology and all kinds of digital organizations and that sector. You can read here about some of the deals that are happening in the blockchain ecosystem in Israel and the breakdown, how they've developed over the years and the evolution there. There's also some good information here about ICOs happening in Israel. If you want to read more about regulation in that country, you can read about tax authority, securities authority, and legal precedents. Bits of gold. Good repository of information here if you're looking at the regulatory landscape in Israel. So there you have it. That's pretty much the end of the report. There's credits that are available here for you to view. All the researchers that did a great job compiling information. You can take a look at that. Just a quick mention here of some of the major projects, the leading projects in 2018. At the very end of this report, you could check that out if you're interested. Leading ecosystem actors as well. And then you have some space for your notes if you want to print this out and bring it to a meeting or whatnot. It's always available for you. So this is again coming to us by way of First Digital Assets Group and OneAlpha. Let us know what you think about this report in the comments below. I'd love to hear your perspective and your voices, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army. More than anything though, I encourage you to download this report. The link will be included in the description. Take your time, have a nice cup of coffee or a glass of scotch and really sift through it. It's a very well put together, dense piece. So there's obviously more information than we were able to address here, but some very solid information. Do be sure to let us know what you think. As always, guys, make sure you smash the thumbs up. Check out our last video here. If you've not already, if you choose to invest, I wish you only the very best of luck. We're going to see you guys again soon with a news video. And until then, I hope you have a great one. Take care.